Yo, BQuanchi here. So today I want to do something a little different on the channel, and that's to make a video about one of my favorite animes, Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. A little additional information is that I primarily watched the anime versus reading the manga of Jojo. I've also been a fan of watching the stand analysis videos and other Jojo fan videos, so I wanted to make one myself. One type of video I enjoyed is discussing which stands are the most powerful and which ones are weak or useless. So I want to focus on a stand from one of my favorite parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stone Ocean, and that stand is Highway to Hell. Highway to Hell, also known as Freeway Through Hell in the dub anime, is often labeled one of the worst stands because of its ability of damage sharing. The main argument of why the stand is so bad is because the only way for the user to kill their target is to kill themselves. In this video, I want to discuss about what we know about the stand, Highway to Hell, what we don't know or can possibly make assumptions or personal fan theories about, and how this can actually be a very powerful stand if used correctly. To start, in these chapters we are introduced to Highway to Hell's user, Thunder McQueen, who is a prisoner who also works as a janitor and is also suicidal. The conflict starts with McQueen stealing money from another prisoner, Hermes, who is recovering in the medical ward. During these events, Hermes is able to discover the ability of her newly acquired stand, Kiss, which she uses to knock down McQueen. This causes McQueen's memories and stand disk to slightly eject. On instinct, Hermes takes the memory disk, and McQueen leaves with still having the stand disk for Highway to Hell. Hermes investigates and pursues McQueen to learn more, especially with these bizarre events and now new ability. Upon encountering McQueen, Hermes discovers that he is very depressed and suicidal, and falls victim to Highway to Hell. She learns when McQueen tries to self-harm, such as asphyxiation or drowning, she also gets inflicted by the same type of damage. Such as Highway to Hell would manifest itself around the victim with propellers as well as a noose-like or liquid mask-like form to simulate the damage that's being shared. Luckily, Hermes is able to use Kiss's ability to counter and escape Highway to Hell, only to discover that even though she's distanced herself from McQueen, she can still be affected by his stand's ability. So there's two main things that we know about the stand Highway to Hell. It affects the victim by sharing the same damage as the user, this method being shown as self-harm, and the stand's ability has an incredibly long range. Now to get into what we don't know about Highway to Hell, which will be more based on assumptions and personal theories. I did try to research online, but I just couldn't find much about the stand. One thing that isn't clear is how the user targets his victim. In the episode, it doesn't seem like McQueen intentionally targets Hermes with his stand. It doesn't seem like Father Pucci, who gave McQueen the stand, didn't instruct him to seek out Hermes. Also, given the fact that McQueen lost his memory disk, he doesn't have much motivation to target Hermes in the first place. As a side note, it would be interesting if Highway to Hell could target multiple victims. With the context of the episode or chapters, and considering McQueen's memory loss and mental state, it's hard to say how a more competent user would utilize Highway to Hell, such as having an intentional target or possible multiple targets. Another unclear question with Highway to Hell is what kind of damage is actually shared. I think we can generally assume that any kind of damage that's inflicted to the user is shared to its target. We don't see many examples of damage besides self-harm done by McQueen. I can only really think of two examples of McQueen being harmed by someone other than himself. While McQueen is attempting to drown himself in a sink, to save herself, Hermes smacks him with the broom handle to knock him away. It's hard to say if Hermes is also harmed by the smack from the broom since she is breaking free from Highway to Hell, and the broom handle couldn't cause that much damage in the first place. There's a second example that brings more questions on how this shared damage ability actually works. When McQueen is attempting to electrocute himself, Hermes is able to place a sticker on his face to activate Kiss's ability, which causes McQueen's head to double, then smack together when the sticker is burned off. This inflicts damage to McQueen, causing him to be knocked out and his stand disc gets ejected. We know that Kiss's ability does actually cause damage because even Hermes acknowledges it when discovering the ability at the beginning of the episode. It's not 100% clear when Hermes uses a sticker from Kiss on McQueen if it causes her to be damaged herself. Maybe it could be argued since Highway to Hell was bestowed to McQueen as a stand, when Hermes used Kiss, it ended the effects of the damage sharing. Reviewing the scene again, it appears clear that McQueen received damage before the disc of Highway to Hell was ejected. Also, it doesn't seem that Hermes received the same amount of damage, if any, compared to McQueen when she used Kiss, considering that McQueen is incapacitated, and Hermes doesn't appear to have any additional damage besides that resulting from McQueen's previous self-harm. So when it comes to Highway to Hell, it's difficult to confirm how the stand exactly works. I really couldn't find enough info to really confirm if the damage sharing is based on damage the user inflicts on themselves or any damage done to the user. When a target tries to attack the user, if any damage is shared, then they will have that damage reflected back to them, which gives an advantage to prevent being attacked. However, if it's only self-damage that is shared, then the target can attack Highways to Hell's user and take them out, which would be a major shortcoming. With what little information I can find about the stand, I just can't say for sure. It doesn't seem apparent that when Hermes inflicted damage to McQueen, if she actually received damage back. There are factors such as McQueen receiving Highway to Hell as a disc that could be ejected, Hermes' tactics used to break away from Highway to Hell, and what little we see of the stand's ability. It's really hard to say exactly sure how this damage sharing ability works. One thing that's worth discussing is exactly how damage sharing would work, such as the case of the amount of damage to one person may be received differently by another person. Let's say that Highway to Hell's user trained themselves to improve the stamina to be much stronger than the average person. For example, what if they were able to hold their breath much longer than a normal person? Could they try to drown themselves, and when the victim drowns first, could they stop and stay intact? Or would the target not drown because Highway to Hell's user hasn't actually drowned, regardless of differences of stamina or strength? What if the user was able to train themselves to withstand high voltage of electricity and had a taser to shock themselves? Could the user remain intact but cause the target to become incapacitated or even die because of the same amount of voltage being shared, but affects the user and target differently because of the difference between strength, stamina, etc.? Again, it's hard to say with such very little information regarding how damage being shared works and how far that goes. Such as, could the user inflict enough self-damage to kill the target, but not themselves, or if the target can't die unless the user also dies. Another thing to consider with Highway to Hell's ability is that it's more about damage sharing and not necessarily pain. For example, what if the user builds a high tolerance to pain, or takes drugs such as painkillers? Or what if the user even takes pleasure from pain? If they commit self-harm, it can throw off the target with pain, while the user isn't as effective. While the victim is writhing in pain, the user can take them out with a weapon or something since the pain doesn't bother them as much. It can be subjective when considering how someone is affected by different levels of damage or pain, and a user of Highway to Hell can get a major advantage if able to deal with it more than its target. So the last thing I want to discuss, and this is something I feel that possibly makes Highway to Hell one of the most strongest and overpowered stand, and that if the user teams up with another stand user. This can be a very dangerous combination and force to reckon with, considering the range and ability of Highway to Hell. The user can simply have it set up so they can asphyxiate, drown, or shock themselves to debilitate their target and have their partner take them out. Fights between stand users can oftentimes be neck and neck and very close to call. Just having the disadvantage of being Highway to Hell's target can definitely lead to an easy defeat. If it's unavoidable that you have to deal with suffocation or shock or whatever, while also having another stand user out to defeat you, there isn't really much chance at all. I believe practically any team up with Highway to Hell is pretty much a guaranteed victory. So in conclusion, Highway to Hell could be classified as a pretty bad or useless stand, but I believe it can also be very powerful. Maybe it's because seeing Thunder McQueen being a pretty incompetent stand user can give the idea how bad Highway to Hell could be. With his memory loss and mental state, and the fact that it's an ejectable stand, McQueen didn't use it to its full potential. If used in the right hands in a more tactical way, it can be a force to be reckoned with. There are different factors we just don't know about the stand, such as if the amount of damage and perception of pain will affect the user and target in different ways. I admit, in a one-on-one battle, Highway to Hell does have its shortcomings, but if teamed up in the right way, it could be unstoppable. Because we see very little of the stand in Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, as well as making some assumptions, we just don't know the full potential. Highway to Hell can literally take out any stand user, even if it's a last resort of self-sacrifice. With the right support of a partner or teammate, it can definitely be an overpowered stand. It's a shame that we see so little of it, so we can't say for sure its full potential versus only seeing it used by a person who comes off as depressed and self-destructive. It would be interesting to see a similar stand as Highway to Hell come up in the future, since it felt like Thunder McQueen really wasn't utilizing it and it came off more of a side effect of his actions. Well, I feel like that sums up what I wanted to say about Highway to Hell. Let me know in the comments below if you think it's still pretty bad or useless, or could be more powerful than expected. Again, this is a typical video I do for the channel and appreciate the feedback as well. The best way to support the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.